Okay, let's try this again. I don't know what just happened. I just lost everything, and that was actually a pretty good introduction. You know what really bothers me? When I do a really, really good introduction, and then the technology decides, nope, we're gonna make it messy. So, anyhow, good morning. I am here again, 2 days in a row, and that means things are going pretty well. And yeah, that was just weird. Sometimes the gremlins get into the system and they mess things up. I hope I'm coming across. I hope I'm not too loud. Let's see. So, I don't have a really good way of monitoring my situation. So, when I am doing this when I'm traveling, I sometimes things just don't go right. So I miss being in my studio where I have the lighting right and I've got the sound right and everything is good to go and I've got multiple monitors. When I'm traveling, I typically only have one monitor and it is sometimes gives us a little bit of problem. So I am sorry about that. Though you probably didn't see it in this video because it was cut off in the beginning, so you don't know what I'm talking about. And this is going to be one of those days. That's what happens. You just keep going. So, I think the trick sometimes is when we're trying to do something and we have a technical glitch, or we say something wrong, or we do something wrong, and then it just gets into our skin, and then we let it collapse our system, and we just fall down, and we let it ruin the situation. And it's really an art being able to learn how to get beyond that. And what it does is like the trick is you just gotta fall down a lot. You really just gotta fall down and pick yourself up a bunch of times, and then you learn how to fall, and then you learn how to pick yourself up, and you let it not be the issue that it is, because in the end, nobody's going to remember it but you, and, you just got to keep it going. It reminds me of a little story. I'm in a sort of little fire tribe, a little fire troupe, circus troupe called Circus Combustus. And it's been a while since we've done a show together, but I think one of the last shows we did, it was a moment that I was so proud of us, where like the show began and we went into a number and there was this aerial performance that was supposed to happen. And what happened was, for some reason, the protective wires at the base of the aerial rig like sort of snapped, and when the two performers got up into the aerial rig, it collapsed a little bit, and in the middle of the show, and rather than letting it get to us and being like, oh my god, and panicking, we went with it. Like, everybody in turn all shifted, and we moved the attention to the other side of the stage. We pushed the next act up quicker. The person in charge of the music was able to rearrange the music really, really quickly. And the MC really had the mindset to shift the focus while we repaired the issue on the other side. And I was working lighting at the time, and I was just like, wow, we really know what we're doing. And, it was a really, really proud moment where I felt that, like, we could handle anything that the universe threw at us. And, that's kind of the thing, is like, there's no easy way around it. You just gotta fall down. You gotta be okay with falling down and learning how to pick yourself up and brushing yourself off. And, everything in life that, gets thrown at you. It's another lesson that I think we fail to teach those coming up. Or do we teach it and just people just don't listen? That's another issue is, sometimes people just don't listen, and they just got to learn and figure things out on their own, and there's nothing you can do about it. You know, you can say as much as you want to say, but it all just ends up as beige. So, anyhow. But yeah, you got. Oh, I just needed to double check to make sure I wasn't on mute, because that would have been foul number 2 for the day. But, yeah, if you haven't noticed on this show, and I know I'm not probably the most professionally edited and processed show that's on YouTube. I'm really just kind of winging it most of the time. But that's the way that I am. First off, I'm Aries, and like we like to wing it quite a bit and then figure things out as we go. And but you know, I don't have time to write a script. I don't have time to practice a script. Every time I've tried to make a script for like doing this, it always feels cold and controlled, and you know, there's no room for chaos, and you know, sometimes chaos is a really nice color to add. So, you know, it's and I think, like, with me and with my artwork and what I've always have been since the beginning when I've started this is that I want to show my failures. I want to show the places that I fall, because I want that to illustrate to people that you can overcome those. All right, they're not a big thing. You know, you just keep going, and you know, you bang your head, you just keep going. So, you know, and to me, that's the important lesson is, you know, and again, what we were talking about yesterday about being a vessel is the vessel keeps going. You want the vessel to keep going, and a lot of times the falls and the mistakes ultimately become great story or lead items that you can talk about, that you can use as an example to help others. And you know, I honestly think that we learn more from our falls than we do from our successes. And you know, I think, you know, somebody that is undefeated, you know, when they finally get defeated, it's devastating for them. You know, it's the end of the world for them. It's like, being second's not too bad. It really isn't. I mean, anything beyond that is ego. And I mean, yes, it's nice to be first, but are you happy with your performance? You know, are you happy winning all of the time? Is that, you know, are you learning from it? You know, some do. But I think that's the situation. I think that's, I don't know. I have no idea what we're going to talk about today. So, I mean, we went into space yesterday, so I don't quite know where we're going to go. I do have some of my favorite coffee from Waller's, you know, just right around the corner from me, and I always like to get a drip with oat milk. I am just grateful that oat milk exists, because I really can't do dairy anymore. If I do dairy, I end up doing an impersonation of that scene from Alien where the alien comes out of the belly. That's what it kind of feels like for me when I do dairy. So, you know, oat milk is been a nice grounding substitute for me. And, you know, people are like, you can't milk an oat. Actually, that's kind of what you have to do with it. I've actually done it before, and you actually have to chop up the nuts, and then you got to put it into a milking bag, and then you got to literally milk it like that. And milk is a process. It's not a thing. All right? I mean, we call it milk, but it's really milk. The term is the process of creating that liquid. And That's what you have to do with the nuts. You gotta milk the nuts. And I don't know, just a little sidebar, but I don't know. It doesn't bother me as much anymore. Like the sort of device or the devicery type of humor that I don't know. It just you gotta milk your nuts. So I typically get the drip with oat milk, and I usually go to Waller's when I'm in Atlanta just because it's around the corner, but they make some pretty good coffee. They use Batdorf and Bronson, so anyhow, talking about coffee today. It's coffee is an art. A barista is in a way an artist, and I treat them as such. I treat everybody as artists. I treat everybody that has to create something or do something or find a creative way to do things. The creative process is a very amazing gift that we have. We, as human beings, have the ability to take all of this negative bullshit that hits us and then process it and then transform it in creative ways and take that negativity and create something beautiful out of it. And I don't think it's given as much credit as it is. It is now. Back when I was younger, the creative process was looked at as childish. And I think that is childish in and of itself to be that. It's very divisory. And, especially when you're throwing the concept of a created universe from a creator God, and then you condemn people from sort of lining themselves up with the creative process, that's very schizophrenic in a way. And then we wonder why there's so many, like, brain disorders, because we're constantly throwing, opposites at each other in a juxtaposed chaos of ripping people apart. And I'm very grateful that we're starting to get into a world where the creative process is respected, and it's starting to be taught in the proper ways. And it's a space of vulnerability for people, especially when they're learning to be able to connect with that creative process, because it's not easy. And whether you want to look at it the right way or not, it's not necessarily that you're born with it. I mean, you may be born with a knack for it, but you still gotta exercise it. You still gotta get those muscles, sharp and in tune, and you gotta work on it every day, or those muscles atrophy. And it's when people are first stepping out and trying to express themselves in creative ways, we fall, they fall, everybody falls, and you create mud and you create garbage, and you're like, I suck at this, and everybody says you suck at this, and you just got to keep going with it. And I think we're starting to get to the point where we're learning to give people space to experiment with themselves in the ways that they need to and want to. And we still have a long way to go with it, but it's so much better than what it was when I was a child. I mean, the sad thing in my high school is, once you got to high school, the whole art department, the art classes and the creative classes, were all looked at as losers, by the collective consciousness of the high school psyche. And it's like, how awful is that? And it's not respected by the faculty. It's not respected by the school, and all the money gets put into the sports and to this, that, and the other. But the creative classes in my high school back in the 80s, was awful. You know, it's like you couldn't, like I was afraid to take art classes in my high school because of how frowned, like listening to how everybody talked about people in the creative classes in my high school. It's like, you know, it's so condemning, and it's almost like prison, like where you rip somebody apart for trying to express themselves. You rip somebody apart for being like that is being vulnerable and putting themselves out there, and it's serving what purpose? What purpose does that serve other than like making some ego consciousness be happy in the moment and getting a laugh out of it, out of people? um you know I mean, I ended up our music, luckily I was in a high school where the music department was pretty well respected, and we won a lot of state championships in both, on the choral side and then on the instrumental side and the orchestral side. And so I kind of was, luckily I was able to find a creative flow in that direction. um you know yeah, I honestly don't know how it is right now. I like to think, or at least the way that I see, like, my generation as they've gone into sort of veteran teacher sort of roles, are kind of helping to transform that direction. But it's it's so schizophrenic when we are thrown this creator god, this created universe, you know, mentality in our world that like everybody wants us to bow down to, but then you condemn the creative process, and we, all of us, if that is the case, and we do come in the sense of a created universe from a creator god, wouldn't it make the most sense that you're most in tune with that energy by doing acts of creation? But rather we condemn that, and then we profess processes of destruction, and it's, it's a schizophrenic life we lead growing up in this world, Fro. You never know when you step out onto the path where you're gonna go. But so yeah, I have changed my focus in my adult life, and especially now within my artistic practice, where like I try to promote and engage those that are walking that path as best as I can, and be as encouraging as I can and as honest as I can. Because the worst thing that you can, like, there's two sides to this, and there's always two sides to things, because we're a one-dimensional mindset. We got left brain, right brain, yes, no, upside down, left side up, whatever. And it's, you gotta be honest, because we're getting there. But being a professional creator, or being a professional creative in this world, is hard. It is a 20-year grind, and it's that honesty that I think also needs to be underlying. I mean, we need to give the space for people to be vulnerable in the creative process, but we also need to do it in an honest way, and learn and teach how to be constructively critical, all right, in a positive way. And also I think people need to understand that the word no isn't as bad as it is. It's just a marker, that you got to get around. And I believe on one side that we need to be very respectful to the vulnerability of those stepping out into the creative process. But then on the other side, we got to be honest with it, all right? And you know, you have to be honest with people. It's like, okay, if you want to do this, you know, you gotta commit every day. I mean, you gotta, like, if you're it's like being an athlete. It's no different than being an athlete, because if you're an athlete, all right, if you're a professional athlete, you gotta practice every day. You gotta be on the ball every day. You gotta be focused every day. That's the same way with being a professional creator, being a professional artist or a musician or an actor or actress or whatever you're gonna do. You know, you gotta commit to it. You know, it's I think the worst thing that we can do is think that we are born with it and then, you know, just ride on our laurels. For, you know, it's good to do that in a while because that's a good time to rest. You know, but you know, there's nothing anybody that can say to me that is going to hurt me at this point, because there's nothing that anybody is going to say to me that's going to be harder and more critical than I am to myself. All right, there's nobody in this world that criticizes myself more than that. And I've learned that that's a good thing, because it drives me forward, it keeps me going, and you know, it's a drive. Being a professional creator is a 20-year grind. As with most things that you do, all right? If you're starting a business, it's a 20-year grind. I mean, 5 years to get your business off the ground, you know, 10 years to refine that, and then, you know, 5 years to really get it to that top shelf level, you know, and you gotta grind, and you gotta grind, and you gotta grind. It's the only way you're gonna shine. So, I'm being very poetic today. I love you! So, where were we? I have no idea. I'm kind of talking to myself here, but that's fine. It's, I'm used to it. I talk to myself quite a bit. And, I've always been told, or at least the version of the story that I like to use is that, you know, people that talk to themselves are very creative, you know, have a creative mind, you know, and that's fine. So we're off to a good start today. How are you? I don't know. Do we want to keep talking about that, or do we want to move on to something else? I'm getting ready for winter, and I sadly have missed the first snowfall of the season out in Colorado. But I am pretty sure I'm going to be getting my fair share of it when I get back out there in a few weeks. So this is my last trip out to Colorado, bringing my stuff out there. So it's been an experience. I have driven probably 10,000 miles this summer, going back and forth to Colorado, and you know, it's just the way that I chose to do it, and it actually made the process very, very enjoyable, being able to take my stuff out a little bit at a time, get it put into its place, then come back for the next load, and then instead of taking everything in one shot and just dumping it, and then, I mean, yeah, that would have been faster, but you know, I'm kind of using the move as a way of purging everything that I don't need anymore. And if I would have done it all in one shot, I'm sure there would have been a lot of stuff that ultimately would have made it out there, and then I got to figure out what to do with it because I didn't need it anymore, or else I'd end up being stuck with it. So anything that doesn't make it out on this next trip isn't going. The only exception to that is my piano and my very, very big painting, which takes up, those two items take up together all of the space in my van. So I'm kind of keeping that on sort of the secret Voyage 6 that I'm not gonna talk about. So, but and yes, I want to get my piano out there. I love my piano. It's I don't know. It's just when you find an instrument that you connect with, it's hard to let that go. Like when you have a connected voice with a musical instrument, it's like I have a guitar that I only paid $150 for. You know, it's not necessarily the top shelf guitar. It is an Alvarez, which is a good company, but you know, when I bought it at a like one of these used music shops, and you know, I went down the entire line of guitars, and the note that resonates with me the most is like the low E, and it vibrates right here. And E is for the solar plexus. It vibrates within your solar plexus, and so I basically, when I was buying the acoustic guitar, I went down the entire line and hit every single E string, and then this one guitar, I plucked this E string and I felt it right here, and that's how I knew it was the guitar that I needed to pick up. That was the guitar that I needed in that moment. So, you know, just a little sort of advice if you're looking for a guitar. You know, figure out what note is your anchor point. You know, what note, be it A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. Find the note that is your grounding point, and then use that as the basis for picking your instrument and listening to that note coming out of your instrument, because that will give you that will help you find the instrument that is right for you. You know, and then how it feels, and you know, it's picking a musical instrument. Unless you're like, if you're a beginner and you're starting, just go. I mean, because you're not gonna know. I mean, you're not gonna know. But like, once you get to the point when you know what you're looking for and how to look for it, you know, you find that special instrument. You find that guitar, that piano, or you know, that violin, you know, or that genre of music to play. So, sadly, I don't do music as much as I do. I mean, I ended up learning guitar when I was 5, and I went with it, and I played guitar through most of elementary and middle school. In high school, I decided that I wanted to learn the piano, because the guitar, I could do it, you know, decently. I could carry a tune, but it just, at the time, it didn't feel right to me. And so I moved over to the piano, and the piano felt right for a while, but then that didn't feel right. And then I realized, like, roughly as I was turning 30, that, like, music wasn't, I can do music, I'm good at music, I can write songs, but I struggle with it. I'm always in the head with music. I can't get out of the head with music for some reason. I have to constantly feel like I'm holding to the edge of the pool or using flotation devices, you know, and because of being in high school and the art department and people in the art department were made fun of and ripped apart and ridiculed, you know, I never went down that path until, you know, I was older, in my late 20s and early 30s, when I realized that painting was my thing, was my jam, and you know, even when I was struggling learning the basics of it, it felt comfortable. I felt like I could get on the canvas, and even though I was screwing up or I was making mistakes, I was learning from those mistakes, and I didn't feel like I was going to condemn myself from my mistakes. You know, being on the guitar and on the piano, it was just constantly cursing at myself. Being on the canvas, I've never cursed at myself, and after about 4 or 5 years of just jumping into the canvas and going with it, it was just like, okay, this is my voice. This is my voice, and obviously it's my voice. So, you know, it's experimentation with yourself. You know, put your like you have to be vulnerable with yourself. You have to experiment with yourself. You have to try things. You have to fall down. You have to pick yourself up. You have you know, it's there's so many. We are not born with it. I mean, there's some people that just have a beautiful knack for it, but still, you don't see their learning process. You don't see what goes on behind the curtain or backstage. You know, you just see their successes up in the gallery or the museum, and you don't see the trials and tribulations they go through to get there. You know, so to many, the creative process looks like magic. You know, but even in magic, you gotta practice. I mean, that's why it's called practical magic. So, um, you know, and I think I came to painting late in my life, and it was teaching me the learning process of art was teaching me so much that I decided early on to be completely out and open and vulnerable with it, and letting people see that vulnerability. You know, let people see the process, let people see the struggles that I was going through, you know, and, you know, the victory, because it made the victories that I achieved with it so much more powerful, you know, and it's a performance, you know, you have an audience. As an artist and a creator, we have an audience. And, you know, there's just such a deeper level of connection that you get with people. And, you know, I never want to be in this position where there's this glass wall between me and then people that admire my artwork, because the whole purpose of my artwork is to inspire, encourage others to pick up the brush, to pick up the musical instrument, to pick up whatever they are doing and go with it. And, you know, because I like to give back the things that I missed coming up. All right, the things that I didn't have access to coming up in painting. All right, because a lot of it I had to learn. I came up through architecture, so you know I've got a very scientific and a very spiritual sort of creative mind, and architecture was just the place for me in college where I felt I can explore that, but still be in a place where I was going to be able to provide for myself. Even though, I'm going to be honest with you, the architecture profession, the architecture workspace sucks. All right? It is awful. You are exploited. You are a slave. And it just sucks. I hated being in an architectural firm because every single minute of every single day has to be billed and directed towards a project. And if you go over budget, you know, you had to kind of make it up on your own, you know, and you were given no space in the architecture firm to maintain your practice, to maintain your processes. You were given like 2 hours a week to clean your desk and to do your filing and to do all of the administrative stuff, but everything else had to be billable to a project, or else you had to go speak to the chief architect and they criticized you for it. And you know, it's that is no place to be creative. You know, it really is no place to be able to express yourself. And I hated it. I hated it from the very beginning. I think I lasted 3 years in it until I was just like, screw this, I'm gonna go do it my own way. It probably took me longer to get successful with it, but I did it my way. And I have a successful practice now because of it. So, you know, it's... But even that, every single step I have taken in my life has been a fight against the norm telling me I'm doing it wrong. That's not the way you're supposed to do it. But I'm like, but the way you're telling me to do it is stupid. you know? Luckily, I had enough drive of myself of that I wanted this no matter what. I didn't listen to anybody. And I'm sorry to people out there that were frustrated with me because I wasn't listening to them, but you weren't giving me good advice. So sorry. I love you, but you weren't understanding my situation. You weren't giving the space for me to be vulnerable the way that I needed to be vulnerable. You were telling me how to do things the way that was okay for you, and just looking at the way that you're doing things, you're okay with mediocrity, and I'm not okay with mediocrity. I've got very, very high standards with what I create and what I produce in this world, because I don't want to produce garbage. I don't want to produce trash. I don't want to produce something that's going to end up in the landfill. Why I don't do business cards, It's like, I was, just a real sidebar here, I was at an event Friday night, and everybody is like, do you have a business card? No, I don't have a business card. Here's a sticker. The sticker has my contact information. That's all you need. And you have a piece of artwork. Because I used to have business cards, It's like, we always put this, when you see your name on the business card, you've made it. No, that's stupid. That's bullshit. That's just a piece of paper. It's no different than a diploma being just nothing more than a metaphor as you survive prison. It's, I remember where it was. It was at a music festival that I started doing. It was just a small music festival, local, nothing big, maybe about like no more than 100 people there. But I remember handing out my business cards, and at the end of the night, as I was leaving, I just found like a dozen of my business cards on the floor, on the ground, with people stepping on them. And I'm like, I don't want to be that. I don't want people to pick up a piece of trash and my name being on it, so to say. So I decided really early at that point that, and then another problem with business cards is the proportions to it. We have learned to drown business cards out in our mind. Somebody hands us a business cards, it's like invisible. All right? And then it gets invisible with all of the other business cards, and then you have a stack of them, and then like, I'm not going through this. And then you end up tossing them into the recycle. Luckily, there's a recycling bin where you burn them. And like, burning them is really the best thing to do. But I remember when I finally decided that, okay, instead of doing business cards, I'm going to make a square card. And it's going to be a little bit bigger. And it's going to be it'll be a work of art that somebody can put on their refrigerator and somebody that can use. And then they will see me and not discard me, and it will not end up on the floor. So, that was something I figured out really, really early on, is, to be creative with the way that you present your information or your practice out to people. Because, and also, here's another thing for artists that are up and coming, or creators that are up and coming. Don't feel the need that you gotta mass produce your product. All right? Don't feel the need that you need to go to an art festival with 20 prints of this and 20 prints of that and 20 prints of this and 20 prints of that. You just take a minimal amount of work with you. And one, it's easier to carry. Two, I have never been to a festival where I have sold out of everything. All right? And, you gotta think in terms of that. I remember I used to carry, because I take my prints and I put them onto wood. And I remember carrying like 20 of these wood pieces. All right? And then having to carry them back because I only sold maybe 3 or 4 of them. So, it's just part of learning and going through the process is, You know, you got to remember when you're at a when you're at a music festival, all right, it is really hard for somebody to buy a piece of artwork because they have to carry it. They have to carry it through the weekend, and then they have to risk it being damaged during the music festival, you know, or the art event or whatever it is, you know. Luckily, we live in an age of the internet and the website where, like, I can do print to order. I do everything mostly print to order. Things that I carry to me to festivals are just, you know, like things that are special in the moment to me that I feel like need to be shared. And, you know, I put that type of intention out it rather than being sort of a mass production of all of this stuff because, you know, because then, like, you end up with a lot of the stuff, then you end up having to sell it at, like, you end up with, like, a purge where you end up, like, I gotta purge all of this stuff because I'm tired of carrying it, and then you gotta put it at a reduced rate, and then it takes out of your profit margin, and yes, profit is okay because that's what sustains us, and you know, your printer makes the money, your shipper makes the money, like all these other people, the people that you pay to host your website make the money, and then you have to sacrifice yourself. But then the person that you sell the artwork to thinks they're helping you, but they're not. They're helping all of your support staff, and then you like. This is why I don't do flash sales. I don't do reductions to my artwork, like a percentage off. Because if you wait for me to do a percentage off of my artwork so that you buy it, you're not helping me. All right? You're not helping the artist because they're having to sacrifice it to make that sale. And you think you're helping them, but, you know, like for example, I have these alchemy plaques that I sell, and I sell them for $300, and they're on wood, they're beautiful, but they cost me $200 to produce. All right, if I reduce them by $50, I'm not gonna I'm sacrificing my own well-being, and you're thinking you're helping me when you're not. You're helping the person that made the wood plaques for me. You know, or you're helping the printer company that printed the print, you know. So, you know, it's, if you want to support the arts, do so at what the artist is asking for. All right? You know, it's we're not Walmart. All right? Stop treating us artists and creators and musicians like we're Walmart, like, you know, we're customer service. If like you're not 100% guaranteed, you know, I mean, that's not art. That's commodification. All right? It's a commodity. It's a mass production. And it's the very thing that I hear people complain about out there in the world, that everything's a commodity. No. You know, it's, this holiday season, take 20% of your budget for purchases for people that you know, and give that money to a creator in your community. All right? It's a gift that gives twice, because when you do that, you're giving a gift to the creator, and you're giving a gift to somebody else. All right? It's double-sided gift. You know, would you rather give the money to somebody in your community and help them, or are you going to give the money to Amazon? Are you going to give the money to Walmart? Their families don't need it. Jeff Bezos doesn't need that money. All right? Support local, you know, and support a creator. And it's so easy to follow them now. You know, throughout the year, just start following an artist that you like. You know? And if you see something It's okay to re-gift artwork. I don't think people understand this. All right? It's okay for you to buy a work of art for yourself and then enjoy it, but then find somebody that you know who would like it, and then you gift it to them, and then you create space for new creative energy to come into. All right? You know, I mean, it's okay to re-gift artwork. Re-gifting Walmart products, that's up to you. But, you know, and not only that, it's just the love that you have for that piece as it hangs on your wall. You're imbuing that intention into that piece, and then you're giving it to somebody who you think needs it, and then they take it in another direction. You know, it's the gift that just keeps on gifting, like, you know, monthly subscription to Jello molds. Anyhow, so yeah, I mean, this holiday season, take a certain percentage of your budget and gift it to creatives in your community. I mean, it's the best gift you can give in both directions. All right. So, anyhow, do I say anyhow a lot? I do say it quite a bit. It's a nice transition piece. You know, it's a nice transition into the next topic. So, um, I'm slowly working towards creating my first, well, actually it would be my second, if you count Arcane Arena, second card deck. But I'm working slowly towards, if you've seen my hexes that I do, and I've started putting out the stories for each of them, because I've had a lot of people ask me, are the stories for each of the pieces available anywhere? And they're all up in my head, and I've been trying to get them out, and I've been starting the process of getting them out. I'm about halfway through book 2, and I'm trying to get through book 3, and then hopefully by the time I get book 3 out there, I'll get this piece done, which is the last painting for book 4. And I've got book 5 for 2024, book 6, which is Sophia. Book 6 will be Indra's Net, which will be 2025. And then there's going to be The Big Bang, which will be book 7. And then book 8 is going to be the Book of the Dead. And I don't know if it's going to be just Tibetan or if I might do it as a mix. It might be part 1 and part 2, because I might do a Book of the Dead for Tibet and I might do a Book of the Dead for Egypt. So, and each of the books, like this piece right here is basically the cover page for the book, is each of the main paintings for each of the books, and what each of the books are named after is a painting that I spend years on that dives into some sort of creative practice that explains in one way or another a creation story. And the idea is that each of the paintings can be laid on top of each other, and they each show, all of them together show that all of the creation stories of all that we have come from, all of it, looking for the similarities and the patterns between them, and showing that they all are pointing us in the same direction. And, you know, that's ultimately the goal. It's kind of like a big, gigantic book of shadows that comes in multiple parts and phases, and there's no beginning to it and there's no ending to it. You just jump into it where it's calling you and where you feel the lesson to be learned is. It's kind of like reading Terry Pratchett. So, I'm moving towards winter, and I'm saying all of this because I guess it should be time for a word from our sponsor. And my sponsor is me. Please support me. Please buy my artwork. I need snow tires. KeithProsick.com. So, um, I I honestly didn't practice that commercial. So, um, more coffee. I hope you are all doing well. I hope you all have a good week. Um, I will be back next week again, hopefully Saturday and Sunday, and probably like I'm gonna be in Atlanta for a couple weeks. I gotta get some things settled up here in Atlanta before I take the last trip out to Colorado with stuff. Mostly the only thing that is left for me to bring out are my books, and I have a pretty extensive library, which is really only 10% of the library that I had, because I ended up downsizing my library because I got tired of moving it so much. And honestly, it's healthy to have a good process of getting rid of books. Um, putting them in those little book libraries on the street is a good idea. But, you constantly got to give new space for fresh energy to come in. And I basically, I came to the mindset that it is better to have a small, amazing book collection rather than a huge collection of all the books you've ever carried in your life, because after 30 or 40 years, some of those books really aren't serving you anymore, and all you're doing is just carrying them. And it's best to be able to, like artwork, hand them off to somebody when you're done with them, and make energy for something new to come into your life. And that's okay. It's okay to repurpose artwork and books and music and musical instruments that way. And, and it's like if you ever seen the movie The Red Violin, of a violin that had gone through a Stradivarius that had gone through 5 different owners in 5 different ways, and just the energy that instrument carries with it. So you're just adding to the magic of the moment with those. It's the importance of creative products as opposed to commodified products. None of us can make a cell phone. None of us know how to make a TV. None of us really know how to make a computer. We know how to put the pieces together, but we don't know how to build a circuit board. Some of us do. But, there's a place for commodification, and then there's a place for artistification. And, it's just knowing when and where to use both. I know I'll probably rub a few edges with people like this, but, having 25,000 Lego sets that are all sitting in a room, how well does that serve you after 20 years? How are you going to handle the moving process with 25,000 Lego sets? Do they really, are they going to really maintain their value the way that we think to, or are they just going to be another Beanie Baby thing? I don't know. Not to diss on people that do that. It's a creative flow, and just it's like with everything. Like even with artwork, is you get to the point where you're bursting at the seams. You gotta let stuff go. All right, you gotta be able to be in a space where you can let things go. It's not really about the process of having 25,000 Lego sets. It's the process of not being able to let it go. And that's like the 2 aspects of materialism: the good side of materialism and the bad side of materialism. The bad side is when it becomes a crutch to you, and it just becomes this baggage that you're carrying with you. And it's just something that we each need to come to in our own ways. So anyhow, we're coming up to the end of today. I hope you have all enjoyed this session. I hope the information that I have provided helps you in some way or another. It's the whole reason why I do this. I'm just trying to help other people the way that I was either helped or I figured out for myself, because it's a process. Everything is a process, and you know, it helps having places that we can go that keep us focused, keep us in tune with our path, teach us new things, bring in fresh energy. Um, you know, it's like, why do people need so many self-help books? Why can't they just do it off of one self-help book? It would be nice if that was the case, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be nice if we just needed one book to be able to put it all straight for us? But you know, it's a constant reminder. We have to constantly be, you know, recycling the ideas, you know, in new ways. That's how evolution happens. Every cycle leads to a little bit of an opening that takes you a little bit further, and then you got to hear it again, you know, especially after you fall down. You know, it's like, come back to your little anchor points that you know, can help you and remind you of what you're doing, because we're not computers, we're not machines. You know, it's not like you can program a specific code into our minds and then we're going to be like that from that point forward. You know, it's, everybody falls down sooner or later, and we have to repeat the cycle again and again and again and again, and that's okay. That's how we learn. You know, strangely, that's how we're doing it with AI. You gotta, like, they just cycle through it a lot faster. So, it's just keep going. You know, please leave a comment or a like down below. If you are getting anything out of these sessions, please let me know. Having that feedback really helps encourage me and helps guide me, because, you know, a lot of it I'm just shooting at the hip with here, and I'm just saying whatever comes to my mind. But if there's anything that you feel like you want me to go into deeper and dive further, just let me know. And also, believe it or not, I still like the encouragement. You know, I love the likes. I love the people that say, hey, thank you. You know, what you said helped me through something, and I picked up the paintbrush, and, you know, it brought new energy into my life. So, you know, just, I mean, thank you. Thank you for being with me all of these years. I've been doing this some odd 20, 25 years now, and I feel like I'm just starting. I'm finally getting my groove going, and I think I finally have a way to curate and promote my work in the way that I've always wanted it to be. Because I have fallen so many times. I have tried so many different directions. You know, mostly just trial and error, because back in the day, I really didn't have YouTubes. You know, I didn't have, you know, access to the teachers. I had to figure it out by bumping my head in the dark so many times. So, but we're coming up to the end of the hour, and you all have a beautiful week. This is our last session for the week. I will be back next weekend with another session of Creative Coffee, with more coffee and more me. And love you all. You have a good day, and take care.